Hello?
Hey,
Where are we?
so this is our digital me. We are now in PUF, the
Yeah.
Performing Arts Forum in Saint-Terme, France.
France.
Yeah. We just came from Essen, passing one night at home in Brussels. And yesterday was quite an adventure.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We can talk about it, and that's the if we talk the whole story, that's for the one chat.
1 hour chat.
1 hour chat, yeah.
Oh my god.
But basically, so we're on time. We took a train. We had a ticket for sure. And
But the route didn't exist
no,
apparently.
the very first thing was that the first train was late,
Yeah.
and we were so stressed. And it seems like the connection was not possible.
It didn't exist.
And then it turned out that it actually doesn't even exist in the first place.
Right.
So we talked with the guy and from the station, and he was telling us that so this doesn't exist. I don't know how we booked it, but I give you a document that covers part of the trip, because the second part of the trip is in France and it's not under their administration. So they gave us the paper that proves to go to Lille, but from there they also gave us a kind of document for refund for. But basically we had to talk with the department in France, SNCF, to figure it out.
No, actually no. But what we did is I called the Belgium International Train Office, and then the guy said like, just book by this TGV. We cannot provide you this ticket, and then just you invoice us that as to pay the difference between what you pay originally and the rest, which is the French tickets.
But that came the second, because that was at the Tournai, and first we got the document in Mons.
No, but that was already arranged from months. In months, when I called the guy, he told me that.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was the call. He said like, in short, he said like, we cannot do anything in France,
Right.
so you have to book this, and then you have to follow this path, and then ask for a reimbursement of the difference between the money that you pay and the originally and the money that you paid at the end between your departure and arriving in France.
Okay. Okay. Well, that was that, but I didn't understand that way. So because then we arrived, so we took the second train to Tournai, and then we went to the counter, and she said she cannot help, but she gave us the number.
No, yeah, that was in Tournai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a woman.
Yeah.
Then you called, but she gave us the itinerary, which
That was very useful.
so we don't have to check the phone all the time, and it's printed out. And we could actually book those tickets for TGV and the
Separately.
local one online, which is kind of stupid, but we did it. And we have to figure it out how to get it reimbursed, but it should be reimbursed. So it was long, and then we arrived in Lyon
At 11.
at 11.
5
PM.
past 11.
Yes.
But French trains, I do have to say, French trains are on time. We arrived at 6 past
Better, yeah.
11. It was exactly I checked, it was exactly.
Yeah. Also, the connection in Paris, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were, I think, like 4 or 5 minutes late, but they catch up because when we arrived, it was at the time that originally was planned.
Yeah. So the problematic ones are Belgian and German trains, because we also had problem in Cologne.
Oh my God!
Essen.
That was just so. Oh. Okay, this chat is apparently about transport.
Well, we kind of.
What is the problem with Cologne? Like when I was going also to Ars Electronica, In Cologne also, but that was a strike, so there is an excuse for that.
Well, it's an excuse, yes.
I mean, at least I thought like it's okay. Normally in Germany that won't happen. It's just a strike.
But yeah, in general, it's really screwed. Yeah. And what was worse in Cologne was that the next train was in 2 hours, so we had to kill 2 hours there instead of 1 hour. Anyways,
Oh my god, yeah.
and like so last night we were just calling taxi like numbers, like everything possible.
Yeah, at the end we have to call John Felix here. So John Felix, if you're watching this, but I know you know. Did you see that at some point? Like we really appreciate that you came to pick us up.
Thank you so
we are
much.
sorry.
Otherwise, we had to sleep in the parking lot.
Yeah, because walking was not a possibility. It was 17 kilometers. It was 4 hours of walk from Lyon till here. So in the dark, like
with a suitcase, like two for you and one for me.
Dangerous, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the route is quite like there's no sidewalk.
Wait, I need to answer. Dame coffee.
So how do I?
Excuse-moi, je n'ai pas parlé français, est-ce que vous parlez néerlandais ou anglais?
I guess I pause it for now. Okay, so it was very short. I shouldn't have cut it, but I cut it because. Anyways.
What happened? I mean, apart of all this
Madness.
train madness, what's going on? What are we gonna do here?
What are we gonna do here? We have Kinect.
We have 2 Kinects.
We have a space.
We have a lot of things. So you want me to tell what we have? We have heartbeat sensors. I found another kind of heartbeat sensor, not an optical one, but electricity one, the one for pressure. Yeah, I'll show you. So not only the
EMG?
optical. Yeah, I have 2 kind now. We have SP32s, so microcontrollers. We have Arduinos. We have electronics and things like that. So that's electronics. We have a motion capture thingy, Kinects. So we have a Kinects. We have 2 Kinects, and then we have a smoke machine. That's nice, always to have smoke. We have one DMX light, and here there's another DMX light. What else do we have? The green key. I also took it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have a green key.
Nice. I don't have much. I have my computer.
Yeah, another thing that I guess I don't remember right now. Well, yeah, we have some things nice, like just to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought all these cables. So here in PAF you have analog TVs, like I think like at least 15 of those. So, and when I met Naoto 1 year ago, the beginning of my research, I was working a lot on the spirit of Nanju Peck. With a lot of analog TVs and signals, like converting digital to analog and the other way around. And I have all these converters and cables with me, so that's something interesting to play also.
Right.
Both directions. Yeah, that's things that we have. And I think so. We came here, I think, because we want to present like a hybrid performance from the best practice in contemporary dance. They will present the impulse dance, basically. I mean, something that is the impulse dance is just showed up, right? We were not planning to do that,
Right.
but they just presented us the possibility to just go in the performance mode of a practice. So this is something that we want to do for the buy of the project. Yeah, so I'm very excited to. Maybe I'm not so excited to install Xcode again in my computer because that will take 8 hours. But
don't have it.
no, because I erased it at some point. I don't need this
Yeah.
thing. It takes like 20. It takes like literally like 10 gigabytes, and it keeps updating itself.
No, I know it, and because you said open framework, so I was like, okay, maybe you have it already. I wouldn't even ask because that's like.
No, I had it before
I,
when I learned in my school. It was 1 year ago, and I worked with machine learning and some things. But then after, I thought like, no, why? I mean, every time I just keep on asking like, do you want to install this thing? It's taking like 3 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially with, I mean, also Windows Visual Studio, it's quite big. Like when you do like Unity and stuff like that, it's also quite bad. But Xcode is like another level. Somehow you have
level of
to,
annoyingness.
somehow you have to get all the iOS development and all these.
And you have different versions, and then you have these add-ons, and but they are just that is just such a nightmare.
Yeah. But that's the only way to do it. Well, it's not true, but that's the easiest way to do.
Have you ever worked with Tinder?
Not so much.
I mean Cinder, not Tinder. Cinder is a more, even I think, low-level version of Open Frameworks.
No, it's. I mean, how I see it is, it's more optimized in a way,
For digital image or for what?
like 3D rendering.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, okay. It's not for 3D rendering. I see.
yeah, but any generative stuff. But I think Cinder is something that it has clear philosophy. It makes sense. Like open frameworks is more like hackers came together and try to make something that works for what they do. Like like installations and stuff. So it's like there are a bunch of libraries and they kind of try to make it coherent, but it's more like they just keep adding things on top of it. But Cinder, I feel like they have like clear idea on what they do, and I think it's more optimized in a way.
But the code, it seems more complex.
Yeah, that's why, because Open Frameworks is more like processing, so it kind of makes sense to write in a way. Like it's
Yeah, the only
easy to
difference,
start.
I would say, that you have to set up the resources. So you have this, I don't know how it's called, but it's like kind of like a header page where you assign the resources. But if you don't even know how to work with that, for instance, when they teach me that, they say like, don't touch that. No, and they just give it to you, and you go to the app basically.
I think it's more like Unity, because how you work is basically you set up a scene.
Yeah.
This object is here, this object is here, and you can move things around, but it's more like, like Unity scene. But Open Frameworks is like, you can do it that way, but also you can do something completely different.
Mm-hmm. No.
And it's so funny because when I went to CCL for the first time, Choreographic Coding Labs in New York, it was at New York University, and some students from there are joining, and they all use Cinder for some reason. I don't know why, but they all use Cinder, and their projects are like connecting the motion capture data into Cinder and do some kind of visualization.
Mm-hmm.
And they made something. It's quite nice. That in 5 days they put things together. I missed part of the presentation, so I didn't follow everything. But yeah. And meanwhile, I was using Open Frameworks. But why Cinder? Because you learned it.
No, because no. I learned Open Frameworks.
Okay.
But the guy who was giving the class, who is an artist, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, conceptually, I think he's not really interesting. But he's one of the people that they will call constantly to do or artwork, or in between design and art in museums, commercial things. Somebody who really knows his work around. And then he was funny because when he was teaching Chris, I think is his name. Hey Chris, he was like a bit arrogant, constantly saying like, I did this, and it was 4-hour class. 2 hours could be just like going, which is interesting. The first class is then if you have no idea of these things, what can you do?
Right.
But if every class is about how cool is him, then it's a bit like, So at some point he was saying like mention Cinder, and then because I'm very curious, so they asked what is this, and he said like, you don't want to go there. And that's it. I think that was my Cinder experience.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, he said you don't want to go there, you don't need it.
But also like Cinder is like, I think it's run by a company, and they use it for their installations, I think. But that's like also very different from open frameworks because
It's open source, yeah.
I mean, they're both open source, but open frameworks is just like random people with the same interest building something together. But
Yeah.
Cinder is like run by like more like a with a clear direction. I think it's the same with open RNDR, like render, open RNDR. That's like more recent ones, but it's a studio actually build the framework for their installations, and they also open source it.
I have no idea.
That's an interesting one. That's language is in Kotlin.
I have no. Is that a programming language?
It's for, I think they kind of made it for Android.
But is it like a framework or is
It's a language.
It's a language itself.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like a Java alternative. Well, that's my understanding. And you can do some weird syntax with it, and I think they somehow found it interesting. So they made a kind of processing-like thing for Kotlin. That's open RNDR.
Or
Basically. But you can like embed shader as an object or something, like because in the pipeline you usually have this shader is applied to a texture. You know, you like touch designer as well. Like you have this texture, and then you plug the shader as a pipeline, and then you have another shader and another shader. But in Kotlin, I mean, under the hood it's the same thing. But open RNDR is something like you have this shader that's attached to not to the texture, but more like a object. I want to draw a circle, and I want to attach shader to it. Instead of saying like, okay, I render this circle in this.
no, I didn't understand that.
Because what usually happens is you prepare a buffer, like a frame buffer, and you draw something, and then you apply a shader.
Yeah.
That's always how it works.
Yeah, it's basically a texture that you put on top of it. What do you do?
Yeah, but I think what I understand from open RNDR is more like you draw a shape and you attach a shader to it.
So you draw a shape, and then
There's a shader attached to as an effect to the
from the beginning, from the beginning.
like kind of maybe I'm understanding it wrong, but somehow it works differently. Like it's not like it's different from open frameworks as a philosophy.
Because the good thing from open frameworks, as I understand, is that because you separate the shader from the object, then you don't consume so many resources. Or you can assign, you can be more clear in how many resources you want to assign in different parts of the pipeline.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all manually.
Yeah. So that's what I don't understand from this. How you Kotlin?
Open RNDR.
Open
Kotlin is
RNDR.
the language. Yeah, I need to look up. But actually, it's similar to the framework that Hydra is using, because Hydra is also weird in a sense. Like everything is shaped.
But Hydra interprets but we have this conversation, an interesting conversation, that they were mocking me because I said like JavaScript doesn't compile the code but interprets the code, which is different than compiling.
Yeah, we had this conversation with Matthias, right?
Yeah. But there was a clarification that Peter Steyer, which is quite nerd. Hello, Peter. He was my teacher at the school and a friend, and part of Seeds Collective. He wanted to embed to use Hydra in Touch Designer,
Okay.
So, and then I answered something, and I said like, you have to compile this, and he did make the clarification. He said like, yeah, by the way, like JavaScript is not compiling, but it's just interpreting, it's translating.
I actually don't know, because JavaScript is such a weird language that I think they actually do compile part of the code to optimize it. I don't understand completely, but what I read is basically an interpreter.
Yeah.
It doesn't generate machine code for running JavaScript code, but they somehow optimize part of the code that is used frequently as a bytecode to speed up,
Okay.
but not the entire thing.
Yeah.
So it's like hybrid.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, they do like really weird stuff with.
Yeah, because you
JavaScript.
don't have to set up the app.
No. And it's so sketchy, what people do with all these websites.
Yeah, that's his candy. Peter loves JavaScript. He really likes it.
JavaScript is so weird.
Yeah.
And then, like, either you have to accept it or you have to understand everything.
Yeah, and Peter is more like the case. He really understands
Yeah.
it. And the way how he writes his code is like very functional, using functional programming, and he really, he's trying to and he will speak about poetics, code poetics, and he's really interested in working with these people in New York. How it's called this university in New York, this place, poetic.
SFPC, School for
Poetic
Computation.
Yes,
Yeah, it's an artist run space.
Yeah.
Yeah, JavaScript is like crazy. Like, for example, there's class syntax, but there's no.
It doesn't
real
make no
class.
sense. Like class is at the end is an object. Like everything, like at the end, at the core. Because I remember I learned that in my boot camp. Because I have to repeat this subject for Mike, if you're watching this. But actually, thank you, because then I have to do it 2 times. Then it's anyway. So then everything at the end in JavaScript is just our objects. They're just our objects. So this class at some point they put it with the ES15 with ECMAScript. Then classes at the end are just objects. So nobody really uses these classes because it's just they have no different hierarchy in the way how they work.
Yeah. So JavaScript is very liberal. There's no class. There are only functions and prototypes. I mean, objects and prototypes. That's my manifesto
Prototype.
that I wrote.
But
to
that's not true. There doesn't exist prototypes in there. That's also not true.
prototypes are prototypes.
But the prototype also was an object at the end.
But it's part of the object.
But it's
But it's something.
What is it? This is an exam. This is the French exam. This is the French exam of yesterday now, like the numbers.
Yeah, like at the when we board the train, we have to validate the ticket, and my QR code somehow didn't work, so I had to say the date of birth, and I was like, 1990 is my birth year. Crazy. Yeah, I think millennials are quite happy that they just have to say do mil something. Anyways, no, I don't know actually. But if you see the inspector, you have the prototype, right?
Yeah, I know, but like I'm telling you, that's not. But from what I understand, is not. I know what you're saying, but at the end, it's an object because it's a prototype that it represents. So what is a prototype?
But it's a part of the feature of the object.
Yes, but then that part of the feature of the object is called. How is called that? An attribute of the object. That's called an attribute. Just a feature. It's just anything.
No, I'm not feature. Not in the sense that it, like more like abstract thing that I'm saying. An object has a prototype.
But a prototype is an object. I see what you
Prototype?
mean. It's an object at the end. So I understand. So an object is a prototype, but a prototype is an object before the object is a prototype, but the prototype is an object in itself.
I don't think so. But wait. No, because object can have an object.
Yes.
So the object can have a prototype,
Yes.
and prototype can have a prototype.
Yes. Then an object can. So prototype can have a prototype. An object can have a prototype, and
Yeah.
then a prototype can have a prototype. A prototype is an object. I don't know, but it's an object. It is an object.
I mean, it's like it's for inheritance, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So you don't have to copy everything from the parent.
No,
object.
exactly. And then actually, I mean, normally the way how you do it, but if you really go and use, because in the way how they were teaching these things, the way how you refer to this, once you start referring to the prototype, you see that it's an object. When you start using William just to check, the result back is an object.
Yeah.
The prototype will say like the type will be an object.
But then what's special about prototype? I don't know.
I mean, for what I know, like in prototype, what is the thing with I learned from prototypes? Then the prototypes is just the way how you, because it's in Java it's very clear why you need to use prototypes, because in that way you start referring to these, you start referring to certain parts of your program without the need to. With the prototype.
Because you cannot modify prototype.
No, the prototype is like a setup.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's not that the word anyway. But then what you do with the prototype is you keep referring to there in a context. You say prototype this.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, because if you have, let's say, draw function in prototype, you cannot edit it, but you can add draw function like overload. Override
like,
as draw of that object, but it doesn't.
It's a new
change
object. That's a new object.
Yeah, it doesn't change the prototype.
Exactly. It's a new object.
Yeah.
That's the way how you change. Like then you change and then you use the functions JavaScript that just create new arrays. Arrays with functions. Arrays with objects inside. At the end is an object. It's a big object with more objects inside.
Yeah. So when you make a class, use a class syntax, it's just a function and then add prototype if there's the inherited object.
Yeah, somehow.
That's becomes further. Yeah.
But then at the same time it becomes tricky because then because of this, it works in a different content. It works differently how you refer with this in Java. Let's say I know from Java. The context of this in JavaScript is it will refer to the
current context.
The current content exactly. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Instead of in Java, but it's called inheritance. Yeah, because in Java instead you come from different objects. You refer to a different prototype, and will be fine. If you try to do this in JavaScript without doing some magic or something, then you can have the unexpected result because of the scope. Because in Java you compile, but in JavaScript, then it will send you back and forth to different places, and you can have errors. Yeah.
But that's the problem with the scope. It's not with the prototype.
No, but that's the whole point. I think there's some jokes with JavaScript, like developers. The whole problem with JavaScript is scope, because at the end it's a language about scope. I mean, because you can use it in different times. How is called this? Like Ajax. What Ajax stands for asynchronously. Because JavaScript you can use it asynchronously. Then why I was saying you that?
Scope?
The scope. Yeah, because of the scope. Because JavaScript is not like it's not compiling you all in once to run the program, but you can use it asynchronously. Then the scope can get very confused. You can easily go to have unexpected things.
No, but even if it's asynchronous, the scope is defined by how you write the code.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. How you write the code in JavaScript, it's just messy. You don't really. Sometimes you don't really understand. That's the whole point. Like you try to debug, because the problem is like in Java, if something is not right, it will tell you. It cannot compile. It cannot run the program, right? But JavaScript will bypass that and give you something that you might not expect. And if you have been working for a long time without structuring the code, you are in big trouble, right?
Yeah.
That's because of the nature of the code.
Nature of code.
That was the note. That was the slogan of a note. 1 year ago. By the way, 1 year ago we were just there, no, in Frankfurt.
Yeah. The nature of code is Dan Schiff.
Ah, yeah, that's Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hey, Dan. Did I saw like it? So when I present, I maybe not in the chat. Like so when I present in my school the presentation of my thesis, I think I have just 2 questions, and one of the questions that I received is that if I still speak with Daniel Schiffman. And I thought that was a bit weird. Like,
because he wrote once in the live stream in the chat. Yeah.
And Olivia also was there.
Olivia Jack, yes.
Olivia Jack, who was the person who wrote LiveLab.
And
Hydra. So without that we cannot work basically.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah. The main 2 things that we used is made by Olivia.
Yeah.
I mean,
we haven't invited her.
Exactly.
That would be so weird, like Olivia in the chat.
She's like a guru. So yeah, we were in Frankfurt
1 year ago. And I just put something because I think in our process really meant different things. Because already we have been working for 5 months online. We didn't met, so we didn't experience like being next to each other. And then just we went to sleep in the same room for 6 nights. Something
in
like
the
this.
green room.
Yeah.
They had a different theme for like different colors for the guest apartments.
Ah, yeah.
I don't know what Yana's room was, but
It was gold. Jana has a massive apartment.
VIP.
VIP. I think it has even a jacuzzi inside. Could be.
For 5 people. Yeah.
That's so funny.
And Alex was taking one of the rooms too.
Alex, the other curator.
Yeah. And poor, what's her name? Gloria?
Yeah.
And
these people were
Katerina?
sent to the station.
Yeah, like they're moving around in Airbnb.
That was actually okay, but this is political. This is not. We're gonna go there. We're not gonna go there. Because also.
But I remember that they were saying that the bathroom was like behind the kitchen, something like that.
Yeah. I remember because Carlos, one of the people who you have all these technicians who were like, the production of this thing was very high. No, like it was live. It was not live. I mean, it was a TV set, right? So, and they have people constantly working, and at night you have to do this connection with New Tech in Quebec. So, there was people working constantly on that. Carlos Serrano, one of them, which is somebody who just present also a New Now Festival and Soberane Essen. He did a great job, and he worked with Neil Sinclair. Let's just say that. Yeah, Neil Sinclair. And so let's just say that. But Carlos told me that they were in next to the train station, and that was like hardcore because you have all this junkie around, and he has to come back around 1 a.m. Sometimes he was just going walking with his computer.
Crazy.
And they were like they were the technicians of them. Yeah.
Yeah, but also that time was kind of still we're not sure with like what to do with COVID, and I don't know if hotels were like how they're operating. I think, but
Yeah, because it was before the second lockdown. It was
just
right-
before.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Like if it was 1 month later,
Would
it
be
wouldn't
possible.
have happened.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like Airbnb, like finding them, it's quite difficult because they didn't know what to do. Like, I think hotels were kind of open, but but the situation like wasn't clear, and also the festival wise.
And it was. I mean, we were just very lucky with the. It was very nice to be there.
Anyways, so there we did the chat. No, we did a lot of things.
We did the chat. You create the whole week of the CCL online.
Exactly.
But basically, you hack the choreographic coding lab with permission, right? You say
Well,
like,
I didn't even get permission.
but you tell
she
them.
asked me to do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Jan, the curator and director, she kindly offered me to do something, but not to do something. I don't know, like something specific, but it's like something I did. So it was really open. We did some lunch. We had the chat. We did the practice, which we failed. we say it's
But
failed.
that's what I was trying. Like, so I underlined in the message that I put that for our process was very relevant because I used the hashtag we totally failed because we were aiming to present something good at Note and we failed. But that gives us the possibility to rethink or doing within digital dance, dance and technology, ecologies, labor, queer technology. Like, what were we doing basically? Because it was really a moment where we could say like, okay, we failed, but it's alright. So yeah, it was a milestone for us. And since then, the practice, I think it became what it is right now.
Yeah.
It was very important for us.
Yeah, I remember like after the practice we went down and like we were chatting with others, Yeah, we failed.
Absolutely. And by the way, the link is there on my Facebook page, on my wall. There is the link of the ghost computer. That shows nothing in a VR space.
They just keep crashing because I don't know why. It's a
And-
good computer, but like
No, but
like inactive. If you're inactive, maybe on hubs, like they just shut down.
but also because we were using these hubs on this. That was so weird. The sound was weird. It just. But we have some stage design. We did stage design, right?
Yeah, because also like but it was nice that we had the space virtually in hubs that Gloria made. We had a stage actually, which we didn't.
No, it's
use.
beautiful. Well, very beautiful. I really like these images of choreographic coding lab.
Yeah,
They still use that images in the festival. We use this. It's a nice image, like this thing.
Yeah, that image is also nice, and also there's like in the back there's exhibition of the past choreographic coding labs. Like I put some images there.
Yeah.
Also Jarl from Fiber Festival. He told me about
Florian from Motion Bank passes by at some point to say hello and to give you some book. You remember Florian at some point? We
I
met.
have the book that I'm presenting somehow. No, was it? I think I was in the book.
You're in the book, yeah, because I see it. It's part of like in Medium. You have these things. The Motion Bank posts often. One of the publications is like you are there in the pictures, like doing something.
I'm like presenting something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that book was about that.
Because
project
maybe
we
because
had.
you're Japanese.
Maybe.
Because maybe you're Japanese.
Okay,
Talking guy.
talking Japanese.
You know.
I know. in strange language.
Yeah.
Weird English, no, that's not true. Because that book was their project in that museum, Kunsthalle Mainz, I think, with this choreographer from Finland. I forgot his name, but did this piece that dancers are running circle.
Don't know.
So they did this production, and they did the recordings so that they have motion capture of this whole piece, and then the idea is that.
But it was not. It was not the foresight.
No, not even like, because now it's independent. I mean, it's in the school, Hochschule Mainz. Motion Bank is part of that, like as a department. They have their own building. It's kind of funny.
And I'm gonna do my internship there.
Yes. So the book is about the project with this choreographer, and then they did recordings. They did some kind of analysis, like visualization of the piece. And they did exhibition in the same Kunsthalle Mainz with the video of the dance piece itself, and also visualization and stuff like that. And during the exhibition we had the CCL there for 5 days.
Okay.
So I was there during the CCL, and Florian and his technical people, they made this OSC player. Basically, there is the bank of the motion capture from the piece, the dance piece, and
But is it the bank is updated in real time, or
no,
it's just a bank?
it's just a recording.
Database.
Yeah, it's a database recording, and basically the idea is that it's always pain in the ass to work with motion capture, if to set it up on your computer and get the data, read on processing or whatever.
But okay. But then
It's just because the motion capture is such a specific thing that there's no like protocol.
But then what you have? You need to use an interface who's capturing the data, the motion. No. So what is the interface that people were using to capture the motion?
Okay, so this first thing is just forget about this. Like if you work with motion capture, it's very specific protocol because the company makes up the whatever protocol that you have to use.
Yes.
So it's hard, and usually like setting up all these things takes like 5 days, and the CCO is done. Like to make the whole thing working takes so much time. So instead of to avoid this hassle, they made a player that is recorded already from the dance piece, and you have this timeline, so you can just like select from this point if I want to do the playback, and it will just like broadcast the OSC or WebSocket with a specific format, so you can easily read it on the browser or processing open frameworks.
Okay.
I mean, easily.
Okay. So you're broadcasting the data, and then in other frameworks you use pool the data.
Yeah, and he already prepared some examples, so it's easy to start with.
Yeah.
That's the idea. So that was part of the CCL. So because there was also like quite a lot of students participating in the CCL in that edition, because that was part of the university thing as well. So they did some kind of visualization with this program, and I was doing something else, like talking, which was photographed. And this whole process is in the book.
And in Medium online.
Medium, yes. I think then I wrote the Medium article.
Yes. Then I. Yeah. Shall we close here? Or do we want something to say?
Yeah.
This is the official. This is the opening.
This is the opening. Yes.
It's the official opening of the residence at PUF.
So we have to say something boring, like important.
We need the
important.
minister.
Yeah.
We need the Minister of Culture of Germany again.
Well, Minister of Best Practices and whatever. We need to have. They are very formal and stupid talk. No, very formal talk. So what are we going to do?
Get some food.
Get some food.
Yes.
Yes. And rest. Recover from the trip.
And then I guess we will start like playing, setting up things slowly, and
That'll be
we'll see.
exciting. I haven't done those,
Setting
hacking things.
download Xcode.
Oh my gosh.
That will be something. Maybe actually before I go, I just start downloading this package.
Yeah. I already downloaded Notch, installed Notch.
Ah, yeah, we have also this notch also with us. That's an easy way to have a good
Easy.
templates for high-end images in 3D space
Yeah.
generative.
Yeah. Maybe we end up this whole week just making high-end Kinect images.
I hope no.
No.
But it's cool that we have. It's the first time that we have hardware. So we have sensors, we have SP32s.
We don't have inflatables.
We don't have inflatables.
We can have MQTT.
Yes.
We can set up multiplayer game.
Well, actually, MQTT will be an easy way to like start streaming data from the SP32s.
Yeah, for sure. But I had so many bad experience with the
Well,
robots.
No, and also because this SP32 that is for WUSA, like you don't find so much documentation, or at least when I was using them, because there are so many different SP32s that you can find. In the project that I present with Joe Caimo in Ars Electronica, we experiment with different kind of SP32s until we find one that was okay and with good documentation. So that will be something to check to make it work online. Okay, so
Okay, then we'll see. Maybe we present some high-end images tomorrow.
so bye bye.
Please like the video. I don't think anyone's watching till this moment, but please like the video and subscribe.
Ciao.